So Rajesh, Pandey, I'll introduce properly this time.
That's not fair. Let him introduce himself.
Rajesh Pandey is an award-winning wedding photographer and a photography educator. He is known for his soul-stirring images taken from wedding, which he would have left out saying if he want to introduce himself, right? So after finishing his management degree from XIMB, he worked for 8 years with companies like ITC, AkzoNobel and Hindustan Levers. He found his calling in wedding photography. Today he is one of the most sought after destination wedding photographers in India. His work has been featured in newspapers, magazines like Times of India, Your Story, Shadi, Malaysia, etc. He has travelled extensively across India, Southeast Asia and Europe to photograph weddings, big and small. Small weddings photographed outside. More recently, he was the only photographer from India to have been selected to shoot Princess Sophie, the Royal Highness of Wessex. He was recently awarded the Best Wedding Photographer of India 2019 by Indian Business Service Awards. He also won the first prize, there's some more to it. He also won the first prize photography from an international fashion brand based in Milan, Italy. He is also a passionate photography educator. He regularly conducts photo walks and photography workshop. So Rajesh Pandey.
Thank you so much, Nanjunda and Pitch Tune for having me over here today. Am I audible? Okay, cool. And thank you so much, each one of you, for coming down, braving the Bangalore traffic on a Friday afternoon. Kudos to you. Give yourself a big round of applause. Just to understand the mix of the audience here today, how many of you are full-time into entrepreneurship? Wow. And how many are sitting on the edge, on the fence, wanting to take the plunge in entrepreneurship? Okay, cool. So we have a pretty homogeneous crowd over here. A lot of entrepreneurs. I'm damn excited to be speaking to all of you, because I guess we are on the same wavelength. The reason I'm standing in front of you is because I had the opportunity to found 4 startups. 3 of them failed, and 1 continues to be profitable. And more on that, in a while. I'll just take you through my work, just so that you know the kind of work that I've been doing. And these are pictures that I've shot across the country, beach weddings in Goa, palace weddings in Udaipur, backwaters, in the mountains, destination weddings in Phuket, Kathmandu, France. And this is all a labor of love. And this is what I've shot for the last 10 years. This is a glimpse of my work. And before I begin, let me just talk a little bit about the opportunity of the wedding market, the wedding industry, which I belong to. The wedding market in India is a staggering $40 to $50 billion with a capital B. And the wedding photography market, my market, is about 10 to 15% of this market, which is about $4 to $5 billion, which is also pretty exciting, to be in this particular niche. And it's a recession-proof market. There is no recession in the wedding industry. It grows 25 to 30% year on year. The size of the market is again mind-boggling. There are 1 crore weddings happening every single year in India, and people spend, as much as 1/3 of their life savings for 1 single wedding. So you can imagine, how much value people put in, and the fact that 50% of the Indians are below the age of 30, where most of the Indians, get married at that age. So it makes it a very, very exciting profitable, promising industry to be in. Talking about my journey in wedding photography, it's almost 10 years, but about 10 years back, and when I was about 8 years in my corporate job, I was in the sales and business development area, and I was chasing numbers. Every single month there used to be a new target, and that was kind of fatiguing, and I was asking the bigger questions about my life. Where am I headed to, and how long could I be chasing these numbers? And that's when I started dabbling along in photography, and I picked up a professional camera because it looks kind of funky and stylish. I didn't know anything about how to operate it, and so I went and attended a workshop, and that workshop changed everything for me, because this was a workshop by one of the prominent wedding photographers of that time, talking about 2009, and it just immediately lit up this bulb inside, and I said, this is it. If this guy can do it, I can do it. But the universe conspired in such a way that the vertical that I was managing in my corporate job folded up overnight, and I was out of work. So I had two options: either go back looking for a job, or I could kind of see how far the rabbit hole went. And I took a plunge. It was not the best of the decisions, because my wife and I, we were expecting a child, and we had a huge debt, a lot of EMIs to pay. But with all the people over here who raise their hands as entrepreneurs, I know how optimistic we feel, even though we don't understand anything about the market, the product, the service, but we know that there's something that's driving us. So that was my pull, and I gave up every single thing, and I just made a headlong jump into wedding photography. My child was born, the EMIs were piling up, and I said, no, it's going to come in. I'm the next big hotshot wedding photographer that the world hasn't seen. There's supposed to be a queue of people who are going to be not only taking my autograph, but giving me truckloads of money. Well, fast forwarding it 6 months, I got exactly 0 paid assignments. A few free assignments, but they were just not enough to put food on the table. So after 6 months, I had to take a call of going back to the corporate world, and that's that setback was very important, because that kind of shook me up. It's not a child's play. It requires a proper planning, but I did not give up. And that's my first take for all of you guys over here, that if you have a dream, please do not quit. Can I hear this loud and clear? I'm not a quitter. Awesome, thank you so much. And that's what I did. For my weekends, I used to allot time where I would go out and shoot, and I built my portfolio. And within 7 or 8 months, I started getting serious assignments. People were asking me to come and shoot the weddings outside the country, which was unbelievable. They were not only paying money, they were asking me to, fly with the money that they were, putting in for the travel, and that was just exhilarating. I had absolutely no words, to define how I felt back then. And in about 10 months' time, I quit my corporate job, and since then I've been a professional wedding photographer. But it doesn't, kind of end here. The journey only got interesting after 4 years, when I was doing extremely well in my wedding photography business, and the bug of becoming a billionaire, of becoming rich, of kind of having the next big product out in the market and building the unicorn, that bit me really hard. And in 2014, after 4 years of successfully running my wedding photography show, I founded not one but 3 startups back to back. And that's another day for another day, about what happened and why it happened, and all of that. We are not interested in stories which didn't work. But to cut the long story short, it didn't. And so I came back to the drawing board and I was dejected, I was heartbroken. I said, here I could build my wedding photography business, and here I'm struggling to build these 3 businesses and failing back to back. What's the problem? And that's where I came up to my second big learning in my entrepreneurial journey is, what would you rather do if you had all the money in the world? And for me, the answer came like a slap on my face. The answer was, I would travel and I would still take pictures. If I was a billionaire, a trillionaire, a gazillionaire, I would still go out for my travels. I would still be taking pictures. And I said, what the hell? I mean, this has been inside me all the while, but I've been ignoring it. And I've been chasing the wrong dream. So if you are sitting on the fence and you're confused, this is a beautiful question to ask yourself. What would you rather do if you have all the money? That gets me to my third aha moment, and that was basically about the first couple of years when I built my wedding photography business. It worked beautifully well, and in my second stint, when I went back into reviving my wedding photography business, because people had forgotten who was Rajesh Pandey, who was Rajesh Pandey Photography. I was gone, and I had to work twice as hard because there were so many photographers. And the thing that really stood out for me is that you have to be obsessed. If you're building a product, if you're building a company, if you're building a service, you have to work 24/7. Period. Otherwise, just go back to the corporate job, work. It's a lot more safe, it's a lot more comfortable. But building your brand, building your company needs 24/7 of your attention. Otherwise it will not see the light of the day. And coming to the fourth, so this was the third point where I started working on my wedding photography business. I was obsessed, and within 1 year I got it back on track. And how did I do it? I did it because by hook or crook, I had amazing set of customers in the first 4 years. And when I floundered, and when I forgot my customers, they still remembered me. So when I came back and said, hey, I've been away for a while, they said, awesome, we love you. And that gave me the momentum, that gave me that confidence to take my floundering wedding photography business back into recording. And people talk about 10,000 customers, 10,000 hours of doing something to get good at, and they talk about reaching a certain scale. I talk about only the first 100 customers who can talk for you, who love you, who love your product, who love your service, who are there for referring you, who are there to be in your tribe. And these are the guys who will give you that required push to take your business to the next level. So please do not get confused about going too fast, going too big. It's only those first 100 customers. If you can service them, they will give you the feedback, they will give you the love that you require in order to build a fantastic company. And finally, I say that it's not just about a year, it's not about 2 years, it's not about the exit, which we talk about in the startup community. Try to build a company with a 10-year plan, with a 15-year plan, with a 20-year plan. And that's what Japanese companies do. Toyota has a 20-year plan. Honda has a 20-year plan. They don't talk about 5-year plans. And with that kind of a big focus, they know exactly what they have to achieve. And we are notorious for having very ambitious plans in 1 year, but we are absolutely miserly when we think about how we want to shape it up for the next 10 years. So these are my 5 key learnings. I hope it kind of inspires you, and I was able to communicate in this little time that Nanjunda gave me. But I would be more than happy to take your questions later on. Thank you so much for being such a wonderful audience. Thank you.